Good evening. I'm Dale Miller. I'm sitting in for Laura Kaplan. Welcome to North Fair Oaks Council. Start with roll call. John?
Present.
Raphael?
Present.
Manny?
Here.
Nadeda?
Here.
Linda?
Here.
And Laura and Jenny are excused. And there's somebody taking minutes. Where is Irving? Oh, Carol Marks taking minutes. Okay. All right. There are speaker slips in the back, I believe, if you want to make a public comment or if you want to speak on any of the topics for tonight's meeting. And that brings us to item number 2, public comment. So this is to allow the public to speak for 2 minutes on any topic that's not on the agenda for tonight. So do we have any public comments?
That's not what we do.
Okay. We'll move on to approval of minutes. So there's a number of minutes. Some are from full meetings, the other from, there's a special meeting and a couple of study sessions. Has everybody reviewed the minutes?
I have, yes.
Okay. Would you like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes, I will motion that we approve the minutes. I will motion that we approve the minutes for the following dates: 8/22, 2013, 9/19. That's the let me see. The regular, 2 regular meetings, so the 8/22 and 9/19. Also for the study session of 10/17. And the last but not least, let me see. I'm sorry, a study session of 9/26 also. I motion that we approve the minutes for those meetings.
Anybody like to second that motion?
I second the motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
I'm sorry, I abstained from August 22nd and October 17th. I
Okay.
wasn't at the meetings.
Okay. Good. All right. So this brings us item number 4, the supervisor's report. We have Supervisor Warren Slocum.
All right, how's everybody?
Good.
So Carol was very good to me since I had 3 other meetings tonight packed in here. She wrote me all these notes to brief you on, but as you can clearly see, I've edited them way down. So I'm gonna be really brief. I just wanted you to know that yesterday, Assemblymember Kevin Mullen and I co-sponsored an event up at YouTube in San Bruno, and we had there were 109 people or so that registered for the event. We actually got to hear various people from Facebook, from Google, from YouTube, talking about how social media in government. It was a pretty cool conference, and we got to try Google Glasses, the new Google Glasses, which are going to sell for around $1,500 if you're interested, but they're pretty cool if you're into technology. And I want to just thank Raphael for being there yesterday. I think you stayed for the whole day.
Yeah, most of it until the end. I had to leave early to run the youth center.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, thanks for being there.
great.
Yeah. As you may know, the Board of Supervisors on October 22nd voted to adopt redrawn supervisorial district lines, and they adopted a plan called Community Unity B Plan. And the District 4 changes of that are that I lost a part of Menlo Park from the redrawing of the lines, but to replace that area, I picked up Redwood Shores. So now Redwood City is all within one supervisorial district. So Janet Davis, you're in a new supervisorial district now. And I think the line goes down, the line for splitting Menlo Park goes down 101, I believe. So everything east of there is now in District 3, down Horsley's district, and everything west of there, Bellhaven, et cetera, down to Facebook is in District 4. And obviously, there were other changes throughout the county, but that's the change in District 4. Wanted to give you a briefing on the opening of the Fair Oaks Clinic, but I see Jonathan is here, and I know Mr. Porter is going to say a few words about that, so I'm not going to take your time with that, but I think the opening is still planned for toward the end of the year. In terms of office hours, was at Garfield Elementary School last week, where we had, I thought, a really great meeting, and Beatrice was there, and Jenny was there, and Maria Slocum was there, and there were about, I don't know, 30 parents there. And we just had a great conversation. It was really probably the best office hours I've had because Beatrice was there and Jenny was there, and we all, kind of participated in the exchange with the mothers and everything. It was really good. And poor Irving, who's down the street at a Caron graduation, got a lot to do out of that meeting. So thank you to Irving for following up on behalf of all those parents down there. And then this morning at 8:30, my day started with a meeting with the mothers at Hoover Elementary School, who are very concerned about the bridge crossing there on Woodside Road, and many other issues related basically to the safety of kids in that neighborhood. They were telling me, for instance, at the park there are young people showing up with pistols, doing drugs and so forth and so on. But we'll I can clearly talk to the sheriff and the police department later on about that. But it's just in these office hours, it never ceases to amaze me the kind of stories that people share and some of the things that are going on, in the North Fair Oaks neighborhood. So I wanted to thank all those mothers who came today. There was actually one father who came, and it was just a really, I thought, productive conversation. And then my next office hours will be here on November 6th from 5 to 7, and Sheriff Greg Monks is going to join me. So if you're interested to drop by, you may tell your networks that the sheriff is going to be there, and spread the word, and maybe all the questions can be for the sheriff this time. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, but that concludes my report. Yes.
Actually, Garfield and Hoover are wide apart, spread apart,
yeah.
the community. Did you find the issues were similar around public safety or?
Yeah.
Or children's safety or?
Yeah, as Mr. Porter knows, there's some changes going into semicircular drive down there that it's going to make it safer, I think, for kids to cross those streets. And that was a big concern at Hoover School, although, in a different area. It was the bridge and Middlefield, but the same concerns about making it safe for kids to cross streets, basically. And the city of Redwood City is going to make some changes on Charter. They got a grant to make some changes down there, so the parking is going to be perhaps improved, and the road's going to be changed a little. So there's actually a lot going on in North Fair Oaks, but it doesn't really matter what school you go to. The parents' concerns are sort of similar. You hear similar stories. So Mr. Porter and I will be talking later about some of those issues, although Hoover School is in Redwood City. So, but nonetheless, anyway, yeah, that's my response. No other questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Warren. Okay, let's move on. Council members' reports. Anybody have anything to report? I think there's a microphone down
I just want to piggyback on what Supervisor Slocum has said, that our meeting and conversations at Garfield were profound. They were deep. They brought out a lot of the issues that they see every day. Some of those parents are longtime parents of the school area, and it was a great conversation. And then out of that, we connected with one parent who, at our next meeting, the next day, Thursday, at our study session, she came to the study session with her two daughters, following up on an issue that she was concerned about. So that made us ever more hopeful that when Supervisor Slocum goes and does these conversations at different sites, he really is connecting to and listening to what the issues are that people bring to the sessions.
Anyone else?
I just want to further say with the connection, the Connect 13 conference was amazing. There was tons of educators there, but there was also tons of San Mateo County employees there, and it just gave us more education on how to engage communities with technology. So, and that will allow us to grasp all types of communities, bilingual communities, all communities. So I just thought it was great for Supervisor Slocum and the whole office to throw that event, because people of leadership were there, and I feel like a lot of good things are going to come out of it. So great work.
I have an update to the money that was raised by the Latino Community Council. The last time, a couple months ago, I reported that with that money, we purchased 10 iPads for the North Fair Oaks Library. And then there was some money left over that was going to be used for laptops. So those now have been purchased, and with the money that was left, they were able to buy 16 laptops that will be given to the North Fair Oaks Library for the kids to use. So that, that's the good news from me. I do have another concern from people, residents of North Fair Oaks. This, I think, especially is more concerning to the people in the avenues, so, probably from 2nd on all the way to Marsh. And it has to do with the high school redistricting lines that a lot of people are extremely concerned, because the way that it's looking right now, it looks like this area is going to be moved over to Sequoia or Woodside, and a lot of parents in this particular area of North Fair Oaks definitely do not want to be moved over to the other schools, because now they go to MA. So this is out there for you guys to know that this is a great concern to the parents that are, that live in that area, and that were thinking that their kids were going to go to MA. So thanks.
Okay. Anything else? Was there an announcement about the ambassador?
I have another update. The Siena Youth Center has started a community cleanup every Friday with the youth at the Siena Youth Center. So they're cleaning up the streets of Marlboro all the way down to Nottingham. Fridays. Tomorrow there's no school, so we're closed. But the youth have been doing this for 3 weeks now, and it's been getting a lot of buzz around the neighborhood. And the neighbors are really happy about it. And it's something that we look forward to doing for the next 8 months. So if you know anyone who's interested in joining this effort, please have them contact me.
Okay. Anybody else?
Actually, just that the North Fair Oaks Community Plan had their report back on October 15th, it was, here. And it was a combination of community, county, and who else was there? Peggy, who else was there? It was a good turnout. It was a good turnout. So it was a good chance for people to get an update from the different work groups that are working around parking, outreach, communication, parks, and zoning. And my only concern was that we didn't have, I think we only actually had maybe a few Latino families here. And I think that's a challenge for the outreach communication work group to make sure that that outreach is really, accelerated, because we have, what are we, 73% Latino right now in North Fair Oaks, and it was a good start, but the next one, I hope, is better. We need to improve on it. But overall, it was a very good meeting. Peggy Jensen did the opening and kind of the set the stage for the rest of the evening. So thank you, Peggy. That worked out really good. Thanks.
Hello, I would like to invite everyone on Saturday, the 26th. We're going to be having the youth, North Oaks Youth Ambassadors. They're going to be teaching about the North Oaks Community Plan. So they have partnered with the Siena Youth Center and from the North Oaks Youth Initiative. And then it will start from 9:30 and it will go all the way till 1 p.m. It will be here outside.
Okay, anybody else? All right. Next up is Sheriff's Report. Lieutenant Tim Reed.
Good evening, Supervisor Slocum, council members. Thanks again for having me here. My name is Lieutenant Tim Reed with the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office, and I'm responsible for the North Fair Oaks area. Just want to go through some stats real quick from the North Fair Oaks area. In September of 2013, we had 1,063 calls for service here in the North Fair Oaks area. We responded to 1,063 calls, and that's anything from barking dogs to a car being shot over on, no, that was in October, on Dumbarton, but that'll be in the October one. But that's the range. Anything that we get called for, we had 1,063 calls for service during that month. We issued 54 moving citations, 468 parking citations. I don't have the breakdown of those. On the quarterly report, I get those broken out down to what they're written for. We talked last month about the no parking during the street sweeping days and how I see that as a real effort to continue to clean the neighborhoods. I said I don't have that breakout on this report, but they're in there. We made 3 felony arrests, 22 misdemeanor arrests during that month. Today we did a massage parlor sting in the, I don't know which one it was, but we made 1 arrest out of that, so that massage parlor's license will be going up to the board for action for suspension and or revocation in the next probably 30 days or so. It'll hit the licensing board. So we continue to make progress on that. We made, and it was an undercover operation today that we were able to make an arrest out of. So it worked out well for us. And then from here, I'm going down to the St. Anthony's Church. Supervisor Slocum mentioned it. It's our Care On Community Academy graduation. We have over 300 people enrolled in that academy, and the graduation is this evening. So the other thing I wanted to do, I'm on my way there, I wanted to introduce Sergeant Todd Fanato. Sergeant Fanato is our community policing sergeant. Todd's very active here in the community and all the sheriff's office jurisdictions, but his office is right down here at the Maida building, the old Maida building, the sports house. So he's in and out of here, and he's the guy who runs our community policing unit, our school resource unit, and also works with the SAL program as well. So Todd will be coming to the meetings with me in the future. Any questions for the sheriff's office?
How is the sports facility going?
It's outstanding. Actually, last Thursday, what was the crab feed? Last Thursday night, sheriff's office hosted their a fundraiser there. It was a crab chipino dinner, and It was outstanding. We actually did it all the way in the back in the volleyball courts. There's 3 indoor volleyball courts, like practice courts back there. Completely redid the place. You couldn't tell it was a sports house. It looked like Gotham City. It was a superheroes theme to the whole thing. It was really great. They've got those courts. They've got a sand volleyball pit, outdoor sand volleyball pit in the old loading dock. They actually just filled the loading dock up with sand and used that. They've got 2 or 3 good competition courts inside, plus 2 indoor full-size soccer fields as well. And it was going, the party ended at 10, and it was still going with people playing soccer and volleyball in there in the other part of the facility. So it's outstanding. You get a chance to stop in and take a look at it. It's really an outstanding facility. And I hear the catering there is very, very good too, as well. Isn't it, Sergeant Fanato? Yes, it is. I believe he has a relative involved in that.
So have they got their liquor license yet?
Yes, sir. Yeah, they do. They serve beer. It's just the one that's the beer and wine. It's a beer and wine license only.
So there hasn't been any problems with that?
No, sir. No, we haven't had a peep out of them. And they're having an event, I think, is it Monday? This coming Monday? This coming Monday, they're having an event. They're doing the big screen for one of the fights, for a boxing match. They hire all their own security. They're up to speed. I mean, they're literally in the same office as Todd and his guys. So there's a lot of communication going back and forth, and everybody's up to speed on what's going on in there. So, and the beat units all know and everything. So should be good to go.
Through the chair, I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
In light of what we heard about issues coming from parents around child safety, were any of the contacts or arrests related to issues with children?
Do you mean like child-related crimes, like
No. I
molestation or
mean,
something like that?
maybe someone, I don't know. I don't know specifically what the parents are worried about. Is it people, strangers? Is it, I don't know.
Just my
I just want to
feeling-
know overall, because we're hearing that at 2 of the school meetings, some of the issues around safety came up. And so I just wanted to know how that may or may not be connected to your work in law enforcement. I don't know.
Right, and if I was betting, I would say that, hearing what you're saying, that the concerns of the families, when they talk about safety, I think that they're talking about the gang violence, they're talking about at the soccer fields like at Fair Oaks, as the sun goes down, it seems to attract an element. We've stepped up our patrols over there at the Fair Oaks fields on, there's a league that plays on Friday nights, I believe, and they play till like 10 o'clock at night, so I've asked my guys to make sure they're over there. If I was betting, Ms. Lopez, I think probably their concerns on the safety are more geared towards a larger issue than a single individual. Stranger danger is not really what the families of the North Fair Oaks are they're more concerned about an overall safety in their neighborhood. And this is what I've gotten from other meetings. You understand what I mean? It's not an individual. We're worried about our child being abducted. I'm more worried about the fact that there's gangs and drugs in this area, and how do we protect our children from that? Does that make sense, the way I'm explaining it?
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. I just want to know if there was any relation to what your report.
Right, and I'm sorry, I don't
That's what
have the
I'm
stats, how they were broken out, what the arrests were for. I try to do that on a quarterly basis. It's pretty intensive work for my staff. And so quarterly, I can come in and I can really lay out stats as to numbers of Parkers for this and arrests, felony arrests, what the felony arrests were for. But on a monthly basis, I try not to kind of overburden my staff with that. Because I certainly couldn't dig up these stats. It's going to take somebody who knows the system better than I.
Thank you.
Sir.
If I may, in line with what Supervisor Slocum's doing, we're doing donuts with the deputies, if you wish. And our deputies are going into Garfield and also Fair Oaks School, talking with a lot of the parents. We've got about 30 in each location. We did one this month, we did one last month. And a lot of concerns are the bullying, cyberbullying, and like the lieutenant said, the gangs and the drugs in the area. So, there's not a lot of concern. The outside safety is making sure cyberbullying. Is cyberbullying and the gangs and the drugs and the influence of those. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the Sheriff's Office?
Yeah, I have a question, and also I was at the fundraiser for the sheriff,
Yes,
so that was actually great. And by the way, you did a great job of on your part on that.
Thank you.
And I agree that the sports house facility, has been pretty successful. But I think along with their success, and I brought this up before, there's issues of parking. I think that, on certain days, they definitely overfill the capacity of their parking. And that kind of ties along with another problem that we used to have, and I say used to because the trailer hitch place now has moved to another place in North Fair Oaks that we used to have a lot of issues with them parking all the trailers on the street.
Yes, sir.
And just as a comment, I'm hoping that maybe now that that place is empty and it looks like, the sports house is having great success, but to the detriment of some of their neighbors in regards to parking. And I'm hoping that perhaps there's a chance there for them to take that place that Trailer Hitch used to have. It's quite big, and I think that would give them, more parking space. Because I think we heard it before, when we talked about from the people from the sports house, they came over because we went for the 6-month review on them, and we talked about, some of the things that they needed to do, which they still not have done, but, the concerns are still there with regards to parking that I would like to see still addressed.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions for the sheriff? Deputy?
Very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good. So next we have California Highway Patrol, Captain Mike Maskarich.
It's always tough following after Tim. He's a lot taller than I am, so I got to keep adjusting everything down. Good evening, Supervisor Slocum, members of the board, members of the North Fair Oaks community. My name is Mike Maskarich. I'm a captain with the Highway Patrol. I'm the area commander. I oversee all CHP operations here for the Redwood City area. We actually go as far south as Sunnyvale, as far north as San Bruno, east over to Hayward. We handle the coast from Devil's Slide down to Santa Cruz County and all the unincorporated areas in between. So it's 550 square miles. North Fair Oaks is a part of that community that we service, and it's a very important part of that community. I don't have any particular traffic issues to update tonight. What I wanted to do is speak just very briefly about some of the programs that may be of interest to the community here in the North Fair Oaks. The CHP here in Redwood City has a very robust Start Smart program, so if you have any teens, particularly anyone who's on the verge of getting their license, that's a free program. It's a one night. It lasts for about 2 hours at the CHP office in Redwood City. It's put on by some of my officers, particularly our public affairs unit, and it provides traffic safety information for new drivers, and it's in a very, very important program. It's not required by the Department of Motor Vehicles, but as a parent myself, I definitely would recommend it, and my daughter had gone through some years ago when she first got her license. We're also looking to expand our senior volunteer program, and you don't have to be too senior. 55 is the initial age to get in, and I hate to think that that's called senior these days because I'm not too far out from that myself, but it's a very tremendous committed group of individuals who volunteer their time for the Highway Patrol and bring very unique skill sets to our department. Whether they're retired or if an individual was interested, whether they're retired or still working, they bring a myriad of different skills and life experiences, and we use them in a number of different capacities. Some choose to work in the office, helping us with administrative functions. Others wish to go out in the field. They're not responsible for pulling over cars. In fact, we preclude them from doing that, but we do use them at a number of community events. If you're familiar with Garfield School and what goes on in the morning, they're out there every single morning assisting with safety for the children and the parents that are coming onto the school property. We do not allow them to direct traffic unless there's a uniformed officer out there to assist them for various reasons. But they work at a number of schools throughout the San Mateo and Santa Clara County areas, and they assist us with traffic complaints. They manage to bring our radar trailers out, if you've ever seen those trailers on the side of the road that warn people what their speed is. And so it's a very, very important function that they perform within the Highway Patrol, and we're certainly looking for individuals who are interested in coming on board and being part of that. We also recently partnered with the Sheriff's Department, the Redwood City Police Department, and the National Football League Alumni Association. They had an anti-drug seminar here at St. Pius earlier this week. They had a number of schools from the community, brought the students in, talked to NFL players, discussed some of the challenges that they've experienced either before they made it to the NFL or afterwards as it relates to substance abuse, and to relate to some of the challenges and issues that are confronting our youth these days. So it was a tremendous experience. It was a great collaboration between law enforcement, the NFL, and community leaders. And although the CHP is responsible for primary traffic enforcement in the North Fair Oaks community, we do partner, and I do have officers that are assigned to work with the Sheriff's Department that are assigned to the Narcotics Task Force, the Vehicle Theft Task Force, the Gang Task Force, the Neighborhood Response Team. So we're very engaged. It's not just, we call tow trucks, change tires, and write speeding tickets. There's a lot more that the CHP does, and we are a full-service law enforcement agency, and we do work very well with our partners here within San Mateo and Santa Clara counties, regardless of what agency, local, state, or federal. So it's a privilege for me to be able to serve you as part of this community. If you ever have any concerns, I notice there's a number of new members on the council, and I'd like to welcome you, and I'll be glad to pass out my cards. You can get a hold of me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. As Ms. Davis can attest to, I'm pretty responsive. You send me an email, it goes right to my BlackBerry, and even if I'm not sitting in a patrol car waiting for your email, I'll get right back to you and see what we can do to help you out. So thank you very much, and I'd be glad to entertain any questions that the community or members of the board may have.
What ages for the safety,
For the Start Smart program, it's 16 years old.
16 and up?
16 and up. But if you're like 15 and a half, you're on your way to, you have your permit, we'll certainly let you in. I mean, we're not gonna turn anybody away.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes, sir.
On average, in that 550 square mile area, how many officers do you have on duty at any one time?
At any one time, it varies on the day of the week. It varies on the time of day. Minimum priorities that we would put out would be in the neighborhood of 14 officers. Now, we have shifts that are like a day shift, and then we have an overlap that comes on as a day shift transitions off. Graveyard units come on. At any one time, under most circumstances, and I can't say definitively every single day that we have 14, but that's the number that we try to shoot for. My overall staff is 97 uniformed officers, but I have a number assigned to task forces, a number that are assigned to various administrative functions, and we run 12-hour shifts. So that creates where you're on for a block of days, but then you're off for a significant block of days. So it does create some scheduling concerns, but again, our utmost priority is fielding adequate deployment out in the field, and we try not to go, my management team tries not to go below that particular number. And the holiday times of year, it's actually higher. So we have what's referred to maximum enforcement periods. That would be, as an example, would be the Thanksgiving weekend. It would be over Christmas, over New Year's. The times when most of us would want to be home with our family, but that's also the time where we experience some of our greatest challenges on the road. And unfortunately, some of our greatest tragedies occur during those holiday periods. So it's important for us to ensure the highest level of staffing that we can put out during that time. Okay, well, thank you very much, and again, it's a real privilege for me to be able to serve members of this community, and I'll pass out my card to the board, and if anybody in the community wants one, I have a few extras. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your service.
All right, up next, we have a update on the Fair Oaks Health Center. Jonathan Miesinger. That's it. Oh.
Hi, everybody. I was here a few months ago to tell you about the new health center. I'll try to curb my enthusiasm this time. I think I was a little too enthusiastic last time. But we just did actually give it a name. It's going to be called the Fair Oaks Health Center. For a long time, we weren't sure what to call it. It's important for you to know that this health center is a combination of 3 existing clinics that are closing that we're merging into one clinic. The Fair Oaks Children's Clinic next to Hoover School, the Fair Oaks Adult Clinic, which sits in front of the new building, and the Willow Clinic on Willow Road in Menlo Park. So those are closing and being merged into one clinic. This clinic is a 3-story building, 36,000 square feet. It's almost done. We're going to get the keys on November 8th this year. And we'll open for patients, because I got that question from Linda before. We're going to open for patients on December 16th. It's going to be a very intensive period of furnishing and preparing the building and getting it ready for the patients. At that time, the site will not be completed. The building will be, but the site will still be a work in progress, because in order to complete it, we have to tear down the old Fair Oaks Clinic, which I'm sure none of you will miss. It's an old Coors beer distributorship office building that we've been occupying for about 30 years. And it's going to go away right after we move in. So at that point, the construction company, Turner, begins to landscape and set out the parking area and make it final, so that our grand opening probably won't be until January, late January, when everything's really done and we can present it the way we want you to see it. So I have with me a diagram. This is the site plan. You can see the building. It looks awfully small here. It's surrounded by parking, but this is Middlefield Road here. And it's set in from the road, and in front of it is the parking. That's where the current building is. We've provided adequate parking for all of our staff and all of our patients. There are 170 parking spaces, which may sound like a huge amount. About a third of those spaces are around the building, so they're not all sitting in front of the building. And the property was split, so there are 2 parcels. We're in the front parcel. The building is actually being built by our landowner, not by the county. It was not built with county funds. We have a 30-year lease with a 5-year option to buy. The Board of Supervisors, in its wisdom, may decide to buy the building within 5 years, but at this point, we have a lease. However, we were involved completely in the design of the building. So the interior is designed as a clinic. It has 64 exam rooms. Don't faint. It's a big building. And we're outfitting it now with the most modern, up-to-date equipment. Everything will be new, and we're very excited about that. I wanted you to see what it looks like today in case you haven't driven by lately. So this is the picture on the left is the back of the building, and this is the front of the building. And this shows you the site phasing. So the blue area is the demolition area closest to the street. And the red area is the area around the building that will be ready when we open for patients on December 16th. Do you have any questions? I know that I've done this before, but this is what we're going to be doing in the building. So it's a comprehensive outpatient clinic with an adult primary care floor, a pediatric floor, an 8-chair dental clinic, which is gorgeous, by the way. Even if you don't need to go to the dentist, you should come and see the dental clinic. An OBGYN clinic, an optometry clinic. The wellness clinic is what we used to call the diabetes clinic, but it's our clinic for chronic disease management. We have mental health services embedded within the clinic. The WIC program will have an office in the clinic, which is also very exciting for us. Patient health library, which is our innovation. There'll be computers for patients to use to access health information online, and we have a public health educator who will be staffing that and is developing it right now. The pharmacy is going to be a Safeway pharmacy. So we put it out to bid, and Safeway won. So they're going to build their little pharmacy inside of the building, which is good for the neighborhood. It's open to the public whenever the clinic building is open. Most of the people in that neighborhood don't have a pharmacy to go to. Costco has a pharmacy, but, you know. So this will be a really great thing for the patients in the neighborhood. And we also have meeting rooms. So on the first floor, we have something I call the Great Room, which is this enormous space that can be subdivided into 3 spaces. And it'll be open for public use. That means if people want to have meetings there, we can arrange for that. You can meet there if you want. If you don't like this anymore, you can come there. And there'll be plenty of parking and security, because we have security all the time. And we have extended hours, so the clinic will be open during weekdays from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. and on Saturday mornings. Saturday mornings probably won't start till January, but that's our plan right now. Did I leave anything out, Carol? Okay. Huh? The mural? Oh, yeah. So on this end of the building is a wall that kind of sticks out and separates the parking lot from a nice patio in the back. And that wall is going to be a mural that is being developed by the community, that was organized by a group in San Francisco called Presita Eyes, which does almost all the murals in the Mission District. They're so wonderful. And they came down, and we had focus group, and they got the ideas. They went back and designed a mural, which only I have seen, but you will see soon. And on November 3rd, which is a Sunday, we're having Community Painting Day. Any of you can come on Sunday to that site and start to paint the mural. Then they have professionals who come in and fix whatever you did to make it look reasonably good. And it'll be visible from the street, although it's set pretty far in. It's very colorful, and it'll be a great thing for the community because it's kind of a visual wow on this building. So, do you have any questions? Following me, there's going to be a really great presentation that I'm looking forward to. So, because part of the need we have in developing this is to improve this area here where patients have access and everybody comes in from Middlefield, which has always been a problem. And we were worried about what to do about it. So Mr. Porter is going to talk about that. But do you have any questions for me right now,
Yeah.
Supervisor?
Oh, one is-
Yes, WIC is the Women, Infant, and Children's Program, which is run by San Mateo Public Health. And they have an office on El Camino, but as you know, there's a big barrier between North Fair Oaks, the main part of North Fair Oaks, and this part across the tracks. And so they really feel that they need to have a presence on this side of the tracks, and that's what they're going to be doing there. Any other questions about the new clinic?
How's that transportation going to work?
So
Getting everybody back and forth.
okay.
And actually, before you answer
Yes,
that, Jonathan, I'm very happy that you chose that name, because that's the original name when the
Right.
clinic was right across the street.
Right. It used to be the laundromat.
2501
Right.
Middlefield?
Right.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
it was a political thing for us because we are bringing the Willow patients and the Willow staff there. And it was a big deal for them to go to a place called Fair Oaks. There was a little politics going on there. We had a neutral name that we were going to use, but the decision was made ultimately to keep Fair Oaks so people wouldn't be confused. It's the same address and everything. It's just a new building. So transportation, this is the route of the Samtrans 296 bus. The 296 connects Sequoia Station with East Palo Alto. It goes up Willow Road, and Middlefield is my bus. I take it to work at least once a week. And right now it's a half-hour interim, but in January it becomes every 15 minutes. And that bus will transport people from East Palo Alto, where many of our patients already come from, past the old Willow Clinic, up Middlefield Road to the new clinic, and also bring our staff from the train station to the clinic if they're taking public transportation. We're working with Samtrans right now to enhance that by having a shuttle bus. The shuttle will have three purposes. The first is, in the first couple of months, we'll be bringing some patients from the old Willow site to here just so they can get used to the route. Then we'll tell them, well, there's a bus every 15 minutes. You don't need our shuttle anymore. And then also to take people from this clinic to the train station and back. And the reason for that is that we really wanted to have LEED certification for the building. It's a green building. But part of getting LEED certification meant that we had to provide environmentally sound transportation for the staff. So unfortunately, the Samtrans bus stop here, right out here, is 700 feet from the door of the clinic. And it has to be 600 feet or less from the bus stop to the door. So we're working with Samtrans to see if we can make a slight adjustment. If we don't, then we have to have a shuttle in order to get our LEED certification. We're also planning to have bike share on site here as soon as we have a place for them to put a bike share station. And then the third reason for the shuttle is we want to be able to take patients from this building up to the hospital for specialty care, because we don't have a lot of specialty services here, and we want to get people back and forth as easily as possible. So that shuttle will have several purposes. Any other questions?
When will patients will start making appointments? I've been
It's a problem. It's a real problem right now because we're making a transition where we just today opened our schedules in the 3 old clinics through November 22nd. Then probably about 2 weeks from now, we'll start opening the patient appointments in the new building after, starting for December 16th. But there's a transition period where patients will have a little trouble getting an appointment, and we're only going to really look at the patients who have urgent need, not regular appointments or, physicals, but people who need urgent things. And then if things are really bad, we send them up to the medical center, to the emergency department, or the new urgent care clinic that we're just starting there. Any other questions? Yes. What? Yes. Okay. I'm sure it will. We have a lunchroom, but we don't have a cafeteria. We have 110 employees working in the building. There'll be, right now, some healthy vending machines for patients and staff, because we have an area called the Grab and Go, right when you walk in. It's right there. But we don't have a food service. And so we are hoping eventually to have a small vendor food service in the building. But for now, yes, I think it's definitely going to improve the business for the taquerias and the other places on the street. No question about it, probably even Burger King. I don't know. So yes, we wanted to make sure that people had a place to get food, but healthy food in our building. And also we're planning on having farmers market on site at least once a month, probably maybe twice. When we have our grand opening, we're going to have everything there, the dental van and all kinds of things happening there. But on a regular basis, we want to have farmers market and encourage. Our big part of what we do is encouraging good nutrition and demonstrating for patients how to prepare meals and that sort of thing. We have 2 dietitians on staff. So it's very important to us to do that. Did you have a question? That's a good question. So we have a catchment area, and the catchment area is East Palo Alto, Menlo Park, Atherton, Woodside, North Fair Oaks, and all of Redwood City, and even San Carlos. That's our catchment area for this clinic. Anyone who is a patient of San Mateo Medical Center can come here, no matter where they live in the county. But we're not encouraging people to come that far to the clinic. But it will be attractive to people because it's new, and everyone wants to go to a new place. Because of the Affordable Care Act, we will be in heavy competition with other providers of health care, everyone from Kaiser to PAMF to you name it. And so it's very important for us to keep the patients we have at the 3 clinics, make sure they come with us from Willow Clinic to the new building, come with their doctors, provide the best possible care. We have a base patient population that nobody else takes care of, and those are the undocumented, the people who don't qualify for any federal-funded health care. They don't qualify for the new Covered California. They don't qualify for Medi-Cal, and we take care of them. It's about 1/3 of our patients in this building. We, of course, take care of Medi-Cal patients and all the new Medi-Cal patients who were in the Medi-Cal expansion program. We don't generally have people with private insurance. All of our children have been and probably always will be having some kind of coverage. I think less than 2% don't. So I'm not concerned about whether people will be able to get covered. And in our ACE program, which is for people who don't qualify for anything, we are increasing the sign-up rate from $240 to $350, and the copays from $7 to $15 to make us competitive in the market. But otherwise, there won't be much of a change for those people. Yes. 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 And for those who are the most destitute, homeless patients especially, we waive it. We don't put a lot of publicity into that. It's something we do, but most patients want to pay something for their health care. So it doesn't happen very often that someone pays nothing. But it is our job. We're the safety net hospital for the county, and it's our job to take care of everybody who needs to be taken care of. They walk in and they'll get financial eligibility screening from a counselor to determine if they're eligible for anything, and then they'll be signed up for our program if they're not. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Yes.
Jonathan, is there going to be emergency room service?
No, this is not
So
an
that
urgent care clinic.
You're still going to refer to Stanford?
That's, well,
So there's still that
if it's an
partnership?
emergency, depending on the level of emergency, they either go to our hospital in San
Right,
Mateo,
San Mateo
or
or
to
Stanford.
Sequoia
Oh,
or Stanford.
forgot about
Really
Sequoia.
depends.
Okay.
Some people even go to Kaiser, but we try to avoid that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's great.
Thank you.
My name is, my name is Jim Porter. I'm the Director of Public Works. With me is Joe Lococo, the Deputy Director of Public Works in charge of roads, and Joe's group handles traffic engineering. So we're going to go through a little bit of what our plans are for traffic controls for this facility. Because as Jonathan said, there's going to be a higher level of use at this facility. It's going to be larger, and there'll be more people using it, as well as more employees. And so what we did was we looked at how to get both vehicles and pedestrians and bicyclists in and out of that facility. And we're looking at basically a short-term plan and a long-term plan. And I'll talk to you a little bit about why we're doing it in two phases, because it's a very complicated location. So this slide basically talks a little bit about background. I think Jonathan did a good job of covering that. A little bit larger clinic. There will be parking on site, but there will be more use of that facility. So what we did is we took a look at what the estimated volumes of traffic being generated from that facility are going to be. And we also looked at Middlefield Road. And so we tried to figure out how to get people in and out of there as efficiently as possible. So let's go to the next slide. This is just a location map, getting a sense of where we are. You know, if we could move this over, we're kind of losing, yeah, there we go. And this is a little bit of the data, the traffic data for Middlefield Road. So the clinic itself is just, I will consider it south, but it's kind of southeast of our location now. Middlefield Road has approximately close to 18,000 vehicles a day on it. The roadway itself is posted at 30 miles an hour, but the 85th percentile speed, and that's the speed that 85% of the cars are traveling at or less, is a little bit above that. And the real relevance of that is that's how you set speed limits, and that's a whole different discussion. But cars are generally traveling at the speed that's set at the speed limit. We took a look at accidents at that intersection, and over the past basically 3 years, there's been 2 accidents. So what is very interesting about this location is that the driveway that accesses the clinic also accesses the businesses at Redwood Junction, and there's also a business behind it. So not only is there clinic traffic, but there's the business traffic associated with it. And there's a railroad track that runs diagonally across that intersection. So whatever we do, we need to coordinate that with the railroad, because the railroad owns that track, and we have to get permission from the railroad to do any sort of traffic control in that area. So let's go to the next one. So we've come up with a short-term plan and a long-term plan. And based upon the traffic counts that we see and the projected generation of traffic coming out of the clinic, it looks to us like vehicles will be able to make it in and out of the clinic fine in the mornings. Where we get into trouble is during what we call the PM peak, or the afternoon, the PM commute rush, when people are trying to leave the clinic, but Middlefield Road is also pretty busy. At that time, vehicles are going to find it very difficult to make a left turn, if not impossible, because there's just too many cars on Middlefield. You'll never find a gap. So what we are proposing is to prohibit left turns out of the driveway between 4 and 6 p.m. So what that does is it lets everybody make that turn in the morning and all day long, but when we get into the commute time, you're going to need to make a left, or excuse me, a right. Because if we didn't prohibit that, as I said, you'd probably never find a gap. If you found a gap in traffic, it would be pretty scary making that left. And waiting to make that left, cars would back up. Along with that, pedestrian crossings are really difficult out there. So what we're proposing is 2 new crosswalks, one to the south of the clinic near Pacific, and one to the north between Northside and Hurlingham. Those crosswalks will be high visibility, and we'll also put in flashing beacons. So if we can go to the next slide, this gives you an idea of what that's going to look like. What these flashing beacons are is we'll call pedestrian action. There'll be a pedestrian push button on it. And when you hit that push button, flashing yellow lights will come on. And on that sign, on the border of the sign, there's going to be flashing yellow lights as well. So it really pops. I don't know if you've seen these kinds of signs before, but it's LED and it's very visible, and you will know when somebody hits that light. We're going to have those on both ends of the crosswalk. So that'll be a temporary measure that we're taking. Joe, could you go to the next? This gives you a little indication of what the no left turn sign will look like. It'll indicate the prohibition times. And we're also going to ask northbound traffic to use 5th Street. Because as you can imagine, people want to go north. And it's going to be somewhat of a challenge to keep people from finding ways through the neighborhood to cut through and come around to the north. So we're going to direct them to 5th, where they can go up to El Camino to go north. But that is one of the interesting problems with this location, is the next traffic signal is up at 5th. So it's very difficult for a car to make a left turn around. The ultimate solution is a traffic signal. That way, all day long, cars can make the left. But in the interim, we're going to propose these short-term traffic restrictions in between now and the time we can get a signal in. Why don't we go to the next slide? And this is the signalized solution. So what this will do is put traffic signals on this intersection. We'll create a new signalized intersection. We'll signalize Middlefield, and we'll signalize the driveway. Now, what is absolutely difficult about this situation is the railroad tracks that run diagonally across here. The railroads will not allow you to let cars queue or wait on those railroad tracks. So the signals have to be far enough away from the tracks so nobody stays on them. And it's obvious, you don't want a train running into a group of cars that are waiting for a traffic signal. What that does, though, is that makes the intersection 240 feet long. So a normal intersection, El Camino Real, for instance, it's close to 100 feet wide. It's going to be more than twice as wide as what El Camino looks like. And we have to get a traffic engineer that is certified by the railroads to design this signal. So you can't just go out and hire anybody to design these things. You got to find somebody that's certified, and the railroads have approval authority of your design. So needless to say, this is going to be a complicated effort. I've also learned today that the signal control system, the gates and the controller that controls those gates, is antiquated, meaning it needs to be replaced. The cost of these signals are, I've never done one, but I asked a colleague, and the last one he did was about $500,000 just to replace the arms and the control mechanism itself. Now that crossing gate will be talking with our traffic signal. So they'll be hardwired together so that if a train's coming, obviously you want to put on the red lights so no cars move. But the approval process on this is going to be staggering. We're in the process of hiring an engineer that's certified by the railroads. So we're going to go through that. We anticipate that it's going to be a good year to 2 years working with the railroads to get a signal design. So that's about what it's going to take. But there's also another aspect of this that your body will be talking about very soon, and that's the North Fair Oaks Community Plan. Because we also have a project on Middlefield to change the roadway design and to put in new street furniture and underground the utilities. In the North Fair Oaks Community, or the Fair Oaks Community Plan, there's a suggestion to go from the current 4 lanes of traffic to 1 lane of traffic in each direction with a left turn lane and bike lanes. So as you can imagine what that's going to do, if you've got 4 lanes of traffic right now and you go to 2 lanes of traffic, it's going to cause there to be more cars on, well, it's going to feel like there's more cars on that road because you've cut the capacity in half. Now, it'll be a community decision as to what roadway configuration you finally want, And we will come up with traffic analyses that show what the impacts of reducing the roadway capacity are versus what it is now. And it will function, but there are other side effects of doing things like that. But the way that that all ties back into this traffic signal is when you design a traffic signal, you want the signal heads to line up with the lanes. So you need to know where those lanes are going to be if you're going to design a traffic signal. So we need to know, the Department of Public Works needs to know what that roadway configuration is when we tell the traffic signal designer to go, so that they know where to put those signal heads. And as I mentioned, the geometry of the roadway is going to be driven by the decision of the community on how many lanes you have. That'll just determine where the curbs are. And we need to be able to place those poles somewhere near the curbs. So as you can see, there's this kind of domino effect of the decisions that are going to come before your body here soon. And that's why I understand these decisions are going to be coming before you somewhat quickly, so that we can get our design engineers going and get this signal designed and work with the railroad so that we can get this signal system in place as soon as possible. So that's kind of in a nutshell. I believe that's the last slide, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Thank you. So that in a nutshell is what we're facing with the short-term and the long-term plans for addressing the traffic and pedestrian issues that will be associated with the clinic. And with that, I can try to answer questions that you have. Oh, I see. Yes, yes.
I love your presentation.
Thank you.
And so, when you have the no left turn during certain hours, when you have the no left turn from 4 to 6, are we going to be working with the sheriff to enforce that? Because I know in some areas that people just ignore it if there are no cars coming.
Yes, the sheriff's office will need to be working on that location, especially when it's first installed, because people do need to be reminded that they have to follow the rules. So yes, we will be.
I was curious, who uses that part of the track?
Well,
what travels on there and how frequently?
So it's owned by Union Pacific, right? It's Union Pacific Railway. They use it for freight, and I understand it's twice a day. Yeah, twice a day is what we're hearing. But it could be twice a year. It really doesn't matter. I mean, the railroads, if they have freight at any time, they have control of that location. So about twice a day, which doesn't seem like a lot, but the fact that a railroad track is there will drive everything that we do on this design.
So, you know, I watch out my window all the time because I'm right there. So it's actually run by Samtrans Caltrain, and they use it for training and for service vehicles. You never see like freight of more than 2 or 3 cars. And one time we even saw a phantom Caltrain passenger thing going by. What was that? You know, like, because it's the old Dumbarton line, which may in the future, according to the plan, be rejuvenated. But that's the Dumbarton line that connects to the main Caltrain line in Redwood City.
But I think what's important is the underlying owner is Union Pacific. So they're the operator, but Union Pacific owns it, and they're quite an entity. Other questions? If not, thank you. We'll be coming back. Oh, I'm sorry.
So the short term is that no left between 4 and 6.
Correct.
And you're going to divert people all the way to 5th?
We're suggesting that they go to 5th.
That's kind of a long way, isn't it?
It is, but
You don't think people are going to try to U-turn at Dumbarton?
we would assume they
That's
would.
what
We
I-
would prefer they didn't.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, the most safest is a bad word, but the preferred location for a U-turn would be at a signalized intersection, which is at 5th. In reality, what happens with drivers is they're going to do what they want. They're going to find the fastest way to go, and that's what they're going to do. But we're going to try to suggest to people to go to 5th for 2 reasons. We'd like them to use that signalized intersection, but secondly, we'd like them to stay out of the neighborhoods, because there is always a potential of folks, you know, for instance, you could go down Pacific and back around and kind of cut around. We would like to discourage that. So by sending them to 5th, we're hoping they'll use 5th. But again, that is a suggestion. It's not required.
Okay,
I have
thank you.
so I know the light up LED crosswalks, those are great. Do they have to be push sensored or can they be automated when somebody's walking? Because I know sometimes, say if, someone, I don't know, if you're blind or something, if you cross the street, do they turn on just by you pushing it, or
Yeah.
it has to be push only?
Yeah, so what we're suggesting is the push-button ones. I think the experience that other jurisdictions have had with those, they're basically two sensors, and when you walk through it, you break a beam and it goes off. What happens with those is they tend to malfunction more often, and they're less reliable. With the push buttons, it's all hardwired in, and it's better protected from the elements, and it just tends to work better. And the LEDs we're suggesting, or we're going to use, are the ones on the signs. We're not looking at the in-pavement type that we've got further down. Those are a maintenance issue. As you can see, sometimes they go out. It's very rough having those in the road. The environment, the vehicles, the wear and tear. Having them on those signs will ensure better operation of those lights. And as I said, these new lighted signs, they really pop. If you drive down 101, I always see this coming northbound, somewhere in Mountain View on the side of the road, there's a stop sign. If you ever come back from San Jose at night, on the side of the road, you will see these red lights like crazy. I almost crash my car every time I see it. We'll have yellow lights like that, so it gets people's attention. And we think this is the most effective way to alert motorists of the pedestrians there.
I think one of the suggestions too, because I'm on the streets all the time, and I ride my bike and I drive my car. On these crosswalks, there needs to be more light up top. So say if somebody forgets to push that button, like you see that person's going to cross just because of that light beforehand. Because the light is a little bit dim sometimes in this area. So I know that's, because, I've seen it happen before where right here, they have one here, I believe, down the street. And some guy did not push the button and he almost got ran over. So having more lighted before that, prevention.
So we can take a look at that. Joe, if you go back to the signal one, the traffic signal, the long-term solution. So when we do go with the signal, it'll be like a normal traffic signal where the crosswalks are with the signal. And on the signal poles, it's not only got the red, green, and yellow indications, there's lights on top of that.
Yeah.
So that whole intersection is going to be lit up. And when we do the undergrounding project, what we're going to do is take all those wires overhead. Those are all coming down. So when that goes on, whatever street lights we had up there are going to be on new poles. In fact, it'll be probably, I don't know what the lighting type is, but there'll be more pedestrian-oriented lighting. So certainly in the long term, that's addressed. We'll have to kind of circle back and look at the short term.
Okay.
Just to voice my concerns, echoing Rafael's, to me, actually, the LEDs don't really do it for me. We have them all the way down Middlefield, and we have them in many places. In the middle of the night, you just mentioned, or at night, once the sun goes down, they're great. You can really see when those things come on. In the middle of the day, you do not see them very well. When it's really bright, the sun is, especially, right in front of you as it's going down, it's really difficult actually to see those LEDs. And I've seen people almost getting hit. A good example would be down Bay, Marsh Road, on Marsh Manor, the little shopping center, they have precisely those. And my mom has to cross those all the time because she lives in that neighborhood. And, a lot of people just cannot really see them in the middle of the day. So my concern is that particular type, the LEDs for the middle of the day. Now, the temporary, I'm concerned about, making sure that, hopefully it's temporary and they don't stay there for 10 years or whatever. Because I think if you're going to have, for people to cross, I think a better signal to cross would be what Stanford has on Broadway, which is more like a regular traffic light right in the middle overhead. That I think it's pretty hard for the cars to miss on that. And that's just for pedestrian cross. I think that's, if we're going to have it for a much longer period of time than a couple of years, I think, something to look into personally. My other concern is the not turning left and hoping that the people will do the right thing. I would definitely, I think, need to work with the sheriff to make sure that a lot of this does happen. Anyway, so those are some of my concerns, the things that temporary don't become, too long and waiting and create problems in the vicinity. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Unless there's a burning question, we should move on. We've got a full agenda. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay. We have an update on the Caltrain Advanced System. Casey Frumson from Caltrain is here.
Well, I'm going to have to move it down even lower. I believe that all of the council members should have a copy of the presentation, and I apologize if there's none for the public. I thought there'd be extras here, but I'm happy to email a copy to anyone that wants one afterwards. My name is Casey Fromson, and I'm the Government Affairs Officer for the Caltrain Modernization Program. I'm going to give you an update on some of the work that we're doing right now and how that's going to come through this area. First of all, how many people have kind of been following the high-speed rail Caltrain discussion? Okay, a little bit. I'm going to try and give you some background information on it so you have the right context for it. So the Caltrain Modernization Program is a $1.5 billion program, and it's the early investment in what will eventually be an electrified Caltrain system. So there's three key components to that. One is the Advanced Signal System, also called CBOS PTC, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. And then the other two elements are the electrification of Caltrain, and right now that's in the environmental review stage. And for the council members, I'll try and tell you which page I'm on as we go forward. Now, people may ask, well, what's happening with high-speed rail? High-speed rail is in the next stage, and it's going to be part of a blended system. So what I'm talking about today will not have to do with high-speed rail. It's really this first stage of the Caltrain modernization, which will be in place by 2019. High-speed rail is supposed to be on the peninsula by 2029. And before they come here, they're going to need to do their own planning process, and they'll also have to go through their own environmental review. So that's a much further stage. So today I'll talk about what we're doing for the modernization of Caltrain. So on page 2 for the council members, the Advanced Signal System. There's tons of acronyms in the transportation world, and CBOS PTC is another one. It stands for Communications-Based Overlay Signal System Positive Train Control. And for our program, there's two main components of it. There's a federal mandate that says that trains all across the country have to install a technology that's a safety technology, and it will prevent head-to-head collisions with trains, such as what happened in Southern California in 2008. And the federal mandate says everyone needs to have this system in place by 2015, which Caltrain's working on. The second portion of it, the CBOS part, is for Caltrain performance enhancement. So we decided to put some extra features in there that will benefit Caltrain. So at the bottom of page 2, so what exactly are those? As I said, the PTC, positive train control part, that's the federal mandate. It'll prevent train-to-train collisions. It'll prevent overspeed derailments. So the crash that just happened in Spain, it would prevent a train from going faster than it's allowed to in a certain area. It also needs to be interoperable with all the systems that are out there. So UP, that does run on the Caltrain line, and when Caltrain runs on the UP line, which is down past Tamian for our corridor, all these systems will be able to talk to each other. Now, part of the the Caltrain-specific enhancements will have additional crossing safety benefits. As was mentioned, we are not in charge of that crossing that was just there, but in other areas of the corridor, and there's already over 40 at-grade crossings, our system will be able to talk to each other a little bit more efficiently. So when a train comes up to a crosswalk and to a station, sometimes the gate goes down because it thinks the train's going to keep going. With this system in place, it'll know when the train's going to stop and when it can go, when the hand can go up. So it'll help with better circulation with cars and with people. We're also going to improve headways and operational flexibility. It's with this smart system that allows trains to move closer together, and the electric multiple units, the electric trains that we'll buy in the future, will be able to get more capacity on the entire corridor. So that means that you can get on a Caltrain train in San Francisco and get all the way down to San Jose in 45 minutes, or it gives you the flexibility to make more station stops in the same amount of time because it can start and stop faster. So it's really these two benefits is what really builds in the extra capacity. It'll also be safer for workers that are on the side of the roads. They'll have iPads that they're talking to the trains. Right now, everyone uses walkie-talkies, but this will enforce that if a train's going through a worker zone, it's going to go the speed it needs to go and have better coordination. And the last one, for anyone that rides the train, it will stop at the same place on the station each time. So you'll know where to go, and that's also helpful for ADA folks as well. Page 3. So the total cost of this project is $230 million. It is in the final design stage for parts of it, and then part of it, we're already beginning the installation. The project's moving from south to north, so this project includes San Jose all the way up to San Francisco, and we're installing a fiber conduit, so it's part of this overall communication system. As I said, it's going south to north. The first segment is from San Jose to Santa Clara, and we started on September 4th, and they've been working their way up. Now we're in Sunnyvale, and it'll continue to move north. In the middle section, it's a little easier, and in the very northern section, there's lots of tunnels in San Francisco, so that's a little bit more complicated. Page 4. So the installation milestones. This is not a huge construction project. You're not going to see anyone out there with pile drivers or giant vehicles. This is really an installation project, and it's a communication system at its heart. The data communications subsystem is what's being installed right now. So that's conduit and a small hole that's either being done by trenching or boring that goes all the way from, as I said, San Jose up to San Francisco. So you may see some people out there doing that, and they're doing the work at night. They want to make sure that we still have the trains running at day. So the work is mostly from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. As the council members can see, there's lots of activities that are taking place, and it goes from today all the way to 2015 when the technology will be in place and active, and a little past it because they'll need to do testing. Most of the activities for this project you're not going to even notice. When we have to put the technologies on trains, that's not something you're going to see people out there doing at night. We're going to have a backup control facility in a city. You won't see the work for that. But there's many different activities that go into making this work. Below that's example of the activities that happen in a city, and as you can see, when you get down to the city level, you really don't notice that much work. It'll just be a couple weeks that you may see people out there at night. On page 5, here's some pictures of the fiber installation. So as you can see, there's in the top left-hand corner with a small trench, it's called a mini excavator. So that's what's making the trench so that they can put the conduit in there. And it should be noted that there's plenty of conduit, existing conduit that's out there right now, and wherever possible, we'll use that. So we don't have to have new boring and trenching out there. There's a variety of activities that are all being coordinated. On page 6, here's the base stations. As part of the communication, it's really a closed-loop system. It needs to be able to talk to the systems that are on the side along with the systems on the train, and then there's also some tall, skinny poles that will be installed as well. Right now, there's already over 30 of those on our right-of-way, and we're going to add 14 more because this is an overlay system, and you need to have the right redundancy so you can have this safety technology be effective. There's a map of where those locations are. On page 7, It gives specific locations where the base stations are. Many of them are by the station right-of-ways, and as you can see from the pictures, you may not notice that we already have over 30 out there, so they're not a significant addition to the right-of-way. As far as outreach, which I'm sure you're all very interested in, on page 8, we have a dedicated project hotline. So in case you hear any activity or want to know what's going on, you can call that phone number. We also have an email, a website, and social media updates. There's a notification list that you can sign up for, and there's also a weekly e-notice that we send out for all construction activity on the entire Caltrain right-of-way. And then we're also doing direct mailers. So we've met with each city along the entire corridor, and there's 17 of them in 3 counties. So I actually met with Jim in August, and we want to tailor the outreach to each community. On page 9, you can see, so what that means is we have different fact sheets, and we work with each city to figure out who needs to be contacted. Generally, it's about a quarter mile on each side of the right-of-way, and some communities wanted the notice in Spanish and English to businesses and residents, and we're going to tailor it to each community and send it out at least 2 weeks before the activity starts. And I'll have to tell you, in the 3 cities we've gone through so far, I've received 3 calls, and all of them have been questions about other things. Nobody has been concerned about the noise or the lights. I've had questions. The first one I got was with a gentleman that had a young baby, and he said, you know, is this going to be a big deal, or should I stay somewhere else? And I said, you know, I do not believe it will be, but please call if it is. And I haven't heard from him since. So the activity is not great, but we do want to make sure the outreach approach makes sense for each area. We have a city staff coordination group. So that means it's the technical staff from all those cities in the 3 counties. We meet with them monthly to talk about Caltrain modernization issues. And we've had 4 meetings with them just on this project, so they have a good sense of what's going on. We also have a local policymaker group. So that's all of the elected officials from the 17 cities and 3 counties. And we have bi-monthly meetings with them, also to update them on the project and for them to share with their colleagues what's going on. One-on-one meetings, as we said, and then community outreach meetings. So I had a discussion with one of the, actually it was in the meeting we had with the county. They suggested that we came here and give you guys an update. So wherever needed, we're going out there to get this message out of this is what the program's doing. At the bottom of page 9, here's an example of some of the fact sheets. We have FAQs if you really want to get into the details of what the technology is, a general project overview, and then specific ones on light and noise if you have questions about that. On page 10, when we had these one-on-one meetings with the city staff, we gave them the rough schedule for when we thought we'd be in the area. And we said, for this area, that it would be around December. It's looking more like January now, but we need to keep that close coordination so that we send the direct mailers out at the right time. And if there's other avenues where we need to attend or work with the county to post the information, we'll do that in a timely fashion. So this isn't just a one-time thing and done. It's really an iterative process where we continue to communicate. As far as next steps, we're just going to continue the outreach, respond to inquiries as it comes up, and permits as needed. There's a project team in place going through the entire line, making sure that they have the right material and information for each city. So that's a brief overview. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Through the chair, I have a question. I'm not that savvy about fiber, what are you calling it? Fiber optics.
Fiber optics.
What, and you probably have done studies or not, I don't know, but is there any interference with smart meters, smartphones, cable? I mean, we're surrounded by all kinds of things. What's the relationship with what exists now? And I really don't know. But I'm asking, has that ever come up? Is there a health element involved? Is there?
You know, I can get you more specific information, but I was told that it's about the equivalent, especially for the poles, of what the audio from an old TV station would be. So it's at the lowest level of any activity, and especially for the fiber, there should be no additional health concerns for that.
Okay, so I'm sorry, so for more information, how can someone get more information?
I'll be happy to leave my card.
Oh,
and you can
okay.
email me for
Okay,
that.
thank you.
But people should not be concerned about that.
Okay, any other questions?
So the money to pay for this project, this is what is coming from the High Speed Rail Authority. Is that the partnership that was being sought? And I guess to some degree, I know that Caltrain had budget problems in the last few years, and I think that this was part of what was, been hoped for. So is this now that phase of the partnership with the high-speed rail where the money is coming from?
Yes, so electrification of the Caltrain line has been a desire of Caltrain for years and years and years. And just a couple years ago, there was a partnership that was formed. It's a 9-party MOU that was signed. So it's high-speed rail, the city of San Francisco, the city of San Jose, all 3 counties, the TJPA, which is a Trans-Bay Authority, and Metropolitan Commission. Those 9 entities came together to fund this project, and high-speed rail put in half of the funds for it. But as I said, this is just for the Caltrain modernization program. This does not fund what high-speed rail is going to do. High-speed rail will be able to use the infrastructure that's put in place, but until they do their environmental work and their planning, they will not be able to come up the line. And then to your other question of how does it help with the Caltrain financial issues, by switching to electric vehicles, it will reduce the fuel subsidy about by half, and which it's today a pretty significant portion. This system's been a diesel system for 150 years, and when we go to electric, along with it having the benefits of being quieter and less pollution, it also is going to be cheaper to run as well.
For sure. I'm having trouble in Europe and other places, and I think it works much better. And I think something that's in the mind of everybody, just putting it for the future. Any systems to prevent strikes?
No comment.
You're laying fiber optic cable. Does that mean riders are going to get free Wi-Fi now on the train?
Unfortunately, it will not be contributing to the Wi-Fi system on the train. There is a separate, I want to say task force, but it's a little looser than that, that is investigating Wi-Fi on the Caltrain. That's a question that we get all the time. What the fiber will do, though, is that we're going to pull through a dark cable. So in the future, someone may be able to lease that, and Caltrain will be able to have revenue that's generated from that. And they're also putting the extra capacity in there. So for other signal systems and other things where they need that communication, they're planning for the future of using that.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure I understand all that, but then the other question would be, if the fiber optic cable is there, does it theoretically mean that there could be free Y access on the Middlefield corridor?
No.
No. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I guess I'll rephrase that as I am certainly not a fiber expert, and depending on who leased the empty ones that are there, I guess you could do a variety of activities with that.
So if the county wanted to lease a line, theoretically, if the county wanted to lease a line and provide free Wi-Fi access along the Middlefield corridor, that might be a possibility.
I'll say it might be with me a very limited knowledge of the logistics of fiber.
Thank you.
Again, I'm happy to take that question back to some more technical folks.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, well, thank you, Casey.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next, we have a presentation on the design review process by Elisa Azeza.
Good evening, everyone. I am Lisa Awazasa. I'm a senior planner with the County Planning Department. I have been asked to come to this evening to give you just an overview of design review. And I am not currently our design review officer for the county, but I have served in that capacity in the past, and I do currently supervise our 2 design review officers. So have some familiarity with the process. I'm going to hand out some handouts first. I think I have enough for everyone. There's different handouts, and I think I have enough for all of you folks here.
Three. All right.
Okay, so what is design review? According to our county ordinance, to quote more or less from the ordinance, design review is a process to encourage development that is compatible with the desired character of a community and in compliance with an adopted set of community design standards. Basically, it's a process that regulates or controls the appearance of development, what it looks like. And we have a number of unincorporated areas in the county that have chosen to adopt design review. They're listed here on the handout. Starting in the late 1980s and the 1990s, there are a number of communities here on the Bayside that chose to adopt design review, including Emerald Lake Hills, Palomar Park, Devonshire, and we do currently have design review in place for commercial development along Middlefield Road. Also, up in the Colma BART station area, development up there is subject to design review. Also on the coast side, going back as far as the 1970s, there was design review adopted for that community. And more recently, in the early 2000s, that was expanded and some new standards were adopted. For those communities that are the area, urban communities north of Half Moon Bay, so Montara, Moss Beach, and El Granada. What all of those areas have in common, actually, is that they are they're developing communities. They have a substantial amount of undeveloped property within their boundaries, so there's anticipation that there will be significant future development, or they are subject to redevelopment or ripe for redevelopment. So, for example, in the case of the Colma BART station area, when the BART station went in, it was anticipated that there would be a densification of the development in the area and a need to sort of direct the appearance of that development. So those are kind of the types of communities where we have design review currently. What we have currently in North Fair Oaks, well, we have in all of our areas, but we have zoning development standards, and what those do is set standards for the sort of the location of a building on a property, its size, and to some degree its shape. So we have objective standards, such for including setbacks, building height, floor area limit, lot coverage, and daylight plane. And what those are, and those standards are, as I said, they're objective. They're sort of yes or no kinds of standards. You can look at a plan, put a scale onto it, and say, you know, yes, the minimum setback is met, or no, it's not. Yes, the height limit is met, or no, it's not. So they're sort of yes or no kinds of questions. And the permit process for if someone wants to build in residential development in North Fair Oaks today, the only permit that you would be required to get would be a building permit. The compliance with the zoning standards would be reviewed at the staff level as part of the building permit process. There's no notification of neighbors and no hearing of any sort required, and no appeals of the decisions on those permits. So that's kind of what we have currently. And I included, one of the handouts I included was this one here, which covers, these are the residential zoning development standards that cover a good portion of the area in North Fair Oaks. By contrast, design review standards, again, try to control the appearance of development. They cover such things as neighborhood context and compatibility, building shapes and bulk, architectural styles, facades and articulation, roof forms and styles, exterior materials and colors, and landscaping, walls, pavement, and lighting. So some of the other things that go along with the construction of the building. And I passed out an excerpt from the design standards for the Midcoast area. This is actually the booklet that that community has developed that includes all of their design standards. But I've given you just an excerpt of it so you can get a sense of what those standards look like. And one of the key differences is they really involve, they're discretionary. They are somewhat subjective. Determining whether there's compliance with those standards really involves professional or personal judgment about whether there's compliance. It's not as clear-cut as the zoning development standards. You're going to have, chances are you're going to have a couple of different people looking at the standards, and it's certainly more possible that you're going to come to different interpretations about compliance. So there's a discretionary process involved for design review. And there is an additional permit that's required. So in addition, prior to getting a building permit for your development project, you would also need to get a design review permit. The way the county's design review ordinance is set up right now, there's essentially 3 levels of review, starting with very minor projects that are actually reviewed by the planning staff over the counter as part of the building permit process. So those are small things like re-roof permits, or you're changing out some windows or doors. Those things don't actually require a separate design review permit, but the design review component is included as part of your building permit process. For more substantial projects, if you were going to do a minor addition to your home, those types of projects require what we call a design review exemption process, where we do require that you post a notice or a poster on your property for 10 days. So neighbors in your area, if they happen to see the poster, they can come into the office, take a look at what plans you've filed with us, or they can call and ask questions, make comments. At the staff level, we sort of work with the applicant and anyone who's commented on the project to see if there are maybe changes that can be made to the project that will address concerns. And it's all kind of done at the staff level. Assuming there are no major issues, and 99% of the time there aren't, then you go on and you get your building permit. Your design review is approved, and you go on to get your building permit. For more substantial projects, the third level of review then would be by one of our design review committees. And the types of projects that are before those committees include major additions over 500 square feet. Certainly new homes would be included. And the design review committee, again, as it's set up by our county ordinance, includes 3 members. There's 2 architects and a community member from each of the communities, or from the community where that application is under consideration. Those members are appointed by the Board of Supervisors, and they conduct their business at a public hearing. We send notification to property owners within 300 feet of the hearing, and they are the decision makers on the major design review permits. They're the ones that are deciding whether there's compliance with the design review standards. They bring to the table their professional experience and knowledge of the community in making the decisions. They consider the public comments that they receive at the public hearing in their decision, and their decisions can be appealed to the Planning Commission and to the Board of Supervisors if necessary. So just to kind of these are just sort of my impressions of what the pros and cons of the design review process are, having been involved with it for some time. I would say that I believe it does improve residential design. The actual process of meeting with the design review committee and the architects on the committee, hearing the concerns of your neighbors, I think it usually does result in positive changes that in the end people are happier with what the product that is ultimately built. That's not always the case, certainly, but in general, I think it does improve residential design. It does increase compatibility with other homes in the neighborhood, and that's another key thing to point out. For the zoning development standards, we're just looking at the actual lot that's the subject of the project. We're looking at how it fits on the lot, how tall the building is, and what its shape is to some extent. But there's really no consideration of how it appears in relation to the other homes on the street. And that's the kind of consideration that you do get in the design review process. You're looking at the house that's being built in the context of the street or neighborhood that it's in. So in most cases, that's a positive thing. It can sometimes prevent sort of the worst case scenario where you have a really big home that's right next to a small home and there's no communication at all in terms of design between them. It also gives neighbors notice that, it's a lot of people really do appreciate knowing ahead of time before the ground's actually broken on the construction that a project is coming, that somebody's going to be building a home next to them. So it does provide that notice. It provides a forum for people to come together and discuss what the impacts of the construction will be, and to discuss what changes can be made to the project, what considerations can be made to make things easier for everyone who's impacted. And I think on the whole, it does tend to preserve property values. On the downside, it does definitely increase the permit processing time. As I mentioned, currently you would just, if you were going to build a new home in North Fair Oaks, you would need a building permit. But if, in the case where there's design review, it would involve a design review permit first, then a building permit. So it does increase the time in terms of the permitting. It certainly does tend to increase costs, both in terms of the permit fees that you're paying, but also because, though we don't require it, it does tend to encourage professional plan preparation. I mean, we don't require that you be a licensed architect to design a home and build a home in the county, but it does tend to attract a more professional type of client in order to get through the design review process. And so that's an increased cost as well. It also can cause controversy because it's, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And as I said previously, you can have two people look at the same thing and come up with a different conclusion. Now, in developing the design standards, we try as much as possible to explain, and you'll see in the document that we have there that I passed out the excerpt for, we've tried to explain what the design standard is getting to in an effort to clarify. But it's still, there's no getting away from it. It's still a subjective sort of process. And people will disagree. So, so that's, I guess, what I would consider a disadvantage. And further, they not just disagree, but there can be hard feelings because you're talking about people's designs and your neighbors are critiquing it. So it can cause some bad feelings. And then finally, the process can be abused or used to just delay projects. Sometimes, again, where happens to be bad feelings between neighbors, they can use the appeal process to just make things go on and on in terms of the time. So that was really what I wanted to just kind of give you an overview on today, sort of briefly, what is it, and, what are some of the pros and cons. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have, and we could think about what, if there are something else I could bring back to you in the future on this, I'd be happy to talk about that as well.
We have questions? So, yes?
I didn't see the speaker cards back there, but
Oh, okay.
I need to stand up there.
You can sit there. You want a microphone?
Mike.
I'm happy to share my microphone.
I'll just be right there. So my name is Carolyn Arbuckle, and I've lived in North Fair Oaks for almost 21 years. My husband and I rented on 9th Avenue before we bought our house on 16th. And I've just noticed that some of the projects that are being built now in North Fair Oaks do not conform to what the neighborhood is. It's very eclectic, it's very livable, it's very walkable, very neighborly. We love it. And one of those houses that doesn't fit in went next door to me, and unfortunately it's too late for us, but I'm working to try and prevent more to happen in our neighborhood. But it's a big, huge house that just doesn't fit, and the second story is bigger than the first story, and the windows are looking right into our kitchen, and there's just some things that I think with even minimal like staff level design review would have prevented some of these things that happened. And the house has been on the market for 2.5 months in this market, and we see people drive by and they don't even get out to look at it. It just so clearly is out of what would be good for our neighborhood. So I know that North Fair Oaks is going through the whole community plan, and I think that it'd be great to have design review for single-family homes as well as the commercial on Middlefield Avenue. So just wanted to ask for your support.
So I'll provide a little history. I'm actually the community design review person, have been for about 15 years. So the council, going back to the late 90s, John was on the council back then, we developed this daylight plane, this envelope that you say, because the height restrictions then were about 32 feet, and you could build this giant thing. So this was a big improvement, and some of the neighboring communities followed suit, like Menlo Park and Palo Alto did a similar thing after we had done it. So it's correct, there is no design review for residential at this time. It's just on Middlefield Road. The council may, consider expanding that at least until to El Camino, our side of El Camino. But in general, putting design review over all of North Fair Oaks is quite a deal, because it can get expensive for them, because they come into design review and they have all these ideas and they try to work with the architect and boil it down to something that works, and sometimes they have to come back, which is, I think that's an additional fee every time they come back to review. So any other comments, questions? Yeah.
But I think she has a legitimate concern. How do we keep, or how does the character of family homes remain in an area if there is no review process? It's something that I think I would like to further study or consider or, look at. Because I see various houses, monster houses throughout. I have one in back of mine. And yeah, it was built, I don't know, years and years and years ago. And I totally understand your situation. So, yeah.
I don't know how this works, but am I allowed to say something else?
Sure.
I forgot to say that it's a developer and his money are not even in the community. You know, it's just, it's going to be sold to somebody else. So he has no ties, oh, I'm sorry. So he has they have no ties to our community. And this is what I'm noticing, that the houses that do get remodeled, the ones that are done by the people who live there are very sensitive. They make sense. They talk to their neighbors because they know they're going to be living there. And so what I'm seeing, and I think it might be the Facebook kind of stuff, that there's money coming into North Fair Oaks. Now people think they're going to flip these houses and make lots of money. So they go for the cheapest thing they can, and without any connection to the community, something gets built that doesn't make sense. So I see that as it's kind of, I don't know, it's something that I think is going to be happening more, because I know the same developer just scraped one on 17th now, and the same thing's happening, so anyways.
Well, you're welcome to take my copy of this, and, you know, if it doesn't conform to this.
Oh, it totally conforms.
Okay, well, you said the top was bigger, which is,
It is bigger over because of where the driveway, because see, there's a driveway, so it met the setbacks. But
Yeah,
the
Yeah, it's not, I'm familiar with that particular, the daylight plane line is on the setback. In this case, the wall that doesn't angle back is some distance back from the setback. So that's how they comply with that. It's not right on the setback. Yeah.
The front to the second story hits over, it goes far, it's bigger than the second, the first story, I mean.
okay, any other questions, comments?
Yeah. Lisa, one question I have, I would expect that design review also has an increased cost to the county in addition to the builder. Is that your experience in those communities that do have design review?
Well, our planning and building fees are set to cover the cost of processing the permit, and that's paid by the applicant. So in theory, it doesn't cost the county money, but there are situations, well, like I said, in those very controversial cases that get appealed all the way up to the board. In those cases, the appeal or the fees probably do not in any way cover the cost of the staff time involved for those sorts of cases. But generally speaking, I wouldn't think it would be a cost to the county necessarily.
So are building permits more expensive in design review communities?
It's just that there's an additional permit. So normally, you would just get a building permit and build your house, but in an area where they've adopted design review, you need to go through the design review process first, get a design review permit, then go for your building permit.
And are design review permits priced on sort of a percentage of construction cost, or how are they priced?
No, they're based on an average cost of the time and effort involved to process the permit.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, a little different than the building permit fees.
Okay, in the name of time, I'd entertain a motion if somebody wants to motion to discuss this further at study session. Other than that,
Yeah, I'll motion that we have it as an agenda item at our next study session, design reviews specifically for residential. Thank you.
a second.
I will second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Lisa.
Okay, I do have my card if anyone, I'm certainly happy to talk to anybody further if you have any questions.
Okay, so up next, we have form subcommittees for illegal dumping in CSA 8. So we talked about this study session, getting back to the old subcommittee format where subcommittees will meet, and residents and community members are welcome to join the subcommittees. And they'll meet in smaller groups with the intent of getting, a lot more work done. And so this process is just to make it official that we're forming these subcommittees, and we'd like to have volunteers for somebody to chair these two different committees. I think Manuel is interested in the.
Yeah, I mean, I am interested in being on the subcommittee for the illegal dumping. I would say I'm not sure that we necessarily have to choose or vote on who's the chair, but I would say we should establish the committee, get those who want to volunteer in that particular committee, and then I think that the committee later can decide who chairs. I think. So should I make a motion to create?
That's fine. Does anybody else have comments? I just, I'd prefer to see
I'm sorry,
like a chair.
Through the chair, is this going to, this is a new format or new structure?
Just return to the old structure we
return.
used to have.
So what about the study session? It's going to replace the study session?
I think the intent is to have maybe a section of the study session for, a large group discussion, and then break off into smaller groups, so that the smaller groups will be talking about, different topics, so that way we get more work done. But also allows the subcommittee to arrange for like a field trip to a certain location.
Okay.
We could maybe go to the clinic, we could meet there, get out in the community a little bit more, and, and we won't be restricted, I don't think, to just meeting once a month, so that some of these subcommittees could go at their own pace and get some more legwork done.
Well, I will motion that we establish subcommittees for illegal dumping and CSA 8. That's also on the agenda, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
I will second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. Do we have anybody interested in committing to a subcommittee at this point?
Yeah, so I will commit to be a member of the subcommittee for illegal dumping.
And I believe Jenny Corral said she would be on the CSA 8.
She said illegal dumping.
Oh, she said illegal now.
Yes.
I would like to commit to be on the illegal dumping subcommittee.
And I'll be on the CSA 8.
I would also like to be on the CSA 8.
All right.
I would like to join the illegal dumping as well.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. So I'll entertain it.
Because I have interest in both of them, so and right now, I will, take.
So you're going to do both?
I can go.
All right.
To start with, because I have interest in both.
Okay. So with that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.